kid. We're just talking business. Just business.
Oh, please don't mind me. Do go on. I'll listen quiet as a little old mouse.
You'd be bored, honey. This is dull.
Why, I'd be fascinated.
Leslie, we're talking about politics.
You married me in Washington, remember, darling? I live next door to politics. Brought up with it. Please do go on talking. I'd love it.
This is men's stuff.
Leslie, how about a cup of coffee or a drink or something?
Men's stuff. Lord have mercy. Set up my spinning wheel, girls. I'll join the harem section in a minute.
Now, Leslie, don't you go worrying your pretty little head about politics.
You mean my pretty empty head, don't you, Judge?
Could I get the coffee for you, Leslie?
You too, Uncle Brutus.
You don't feel well, Leslie.
I feel just great. My adrenaline glands are pumping beautifully. Boo! If I may say so before retiring, you gentlemen date back 100,000 years. You ought to be wearing leopard skins and carrying clubs. Politics. Business. What is so masculine about a conversation that a woman can't enter into?
Leslie, you're tired.
Perhaps I am.
A modern day remake of Matthew Vaughn's Lay a Kick. A Coen brothers end up with Timothy Chalamet. A Citizen Kane prequel, a Midnight Cowboy sequel. Alvin and the Chipmunks deserve another squeakquel. There's so many new ways to revisit sideways, but a graphic novel is how we choose to update. But we still hold fast, you can't change the past on the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
On our last G movie, we discussed the 1953 ahead-of-its-time cult classic, Glen or Glenda. Written and directed by Ed Wood, Glen or Glenda was a story inspired by his own gender fluidity and proclivity to wear clothing designed for women. Though he was then seen by many as a joke, Ed Wood is now viewed as a prime example of what it means to have drive and to create with your heart and not just to make money. Wood is best remembered for his sci-fi thriller Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is so iconic, its poster is the banner image for the Wikipedia page for cult film. But Ed Wood was more prolific than just these two films. He would also direct Bride of the Monster, Night of the Ghouls, and The Sinister Urge, among others. But what sets these three films apart are the casting of Harvey B. Dunn in small roles. And much like Dunn, many actors were considered members of the Ed Wood Players, like Tor Johnson, Vampira, and Bela Lugosi, famously. But Dunn made contributions to other notable films. He appeared in My Fair Lady in 1964, Sabrina in 1954, and in 1956 he appeared in this week's film. Greetings, Starfighters. I'm John, and with me as always is my brother Dan. And on this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we're talking about the 1956 neo-western Giant, the story of old money versus new money, or horses versus oil. Okay, Dan, do you think that there are more horses named Giant or boats named Giant? Bringing back a classic segment of the podcast.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay.
Now, these are, by the way, and these are horses that are registered on allbreedspedigree.com, and there is a boat registry that I found that I feel is somewhat legit. So, the name Giant, more horses or more boats?
I'm gonna go with horses.
Okay. Dan, there are 7 horses named Giant registered, and not just living now, but historically speaking. And as far as boats go, 6. So horses win by 1.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Boy, when you said 7, I was like, there must be. But I guess there are Giant plenty in and on its own, right?
Right. There are plenty that are like Giant 2, or there's things where it's just like giant horse, something like that. So
right, like I'm sure there's someone who named their yacht like Yacht, or I don't know, maybe not. Now
I don't know about that, actually.
Now that I say it, no, but no, never mind.
Well, yeah. So Giant. Holy cow! We're covering Giant.
Giant.
We are now 2/3 into James Dean's like major filmography.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I suppose we could always pivot, but I mean, anyone who's following along knows that, we're at G, we're not far from hitting E again, which could easily bring us to the final third.
That's very true. We'll just have to wait one more episode to find out if we're going to be doing that.
Yes, just I mean, it's at some point it has to happen. but here we are talking about Giant, which was released after James Dean's death and got him an Academy Award nomination.
It finished filming after his death. There were still a few weeks left of shooting.
Yeah. And he got 2 Academy Award nominations, not both for this movie, but
amazing.
Yeah.
We're not the first people to say such a damn shame, but such a damn shame.
Well, right. I know. But so let's focus here on Giant. Was this your first time seeing Giant?
This was my first time. How about you?
Not my first time.
Okay.
Right. I had gone through the James Dean, the 3.
Yeah.
So
I'd say it wouldn't take much time, but this one's kind of a longie.
Right. But I saw this on a double VHS video cassette for the first time, and
yeah.
I want to say I've probably seen it like once in between the most recent viewing and that first. I remember always, being kind of like just impressed by it.
Yeah.
And I think it's also just one of those movies that you're supposed to be impressed by. And there are some pretty signature views of, the vista, the land, the expanse of Texas.
Marfa, Texas. Yeah. It's definitely a gripping film despite its length, and also the fact that it's not designed to move really fast. It takes its time. It's very patient with itself. The score is very swelling, and it's not kind of like an edge of your seat the whole time kind of a movie.
Right.
But it definitely caught my attention in ways that I was not expecting it to. Let's put it that way.
Oh, okay. All right. Will we be getting more into that, or is that something you want to elaborate on right now?
Well, I'm not typically drawn to films of this nature. And, this isn't a traditional Western, but, Westerns in general, I've talked about it before on this show. They don't typically draw me in a whole lot. Also, the movie itself, because it spans such a long duration of time.
Yeah.
That can get a little tiresome when you're trying to keep track of what's going on and what's happening with everybody. And what's also, a challenging part of this movie, at least for me, is that Rock Hudson's character was challenging. Mm-hmm. And because he's one of the 3 main people, I'm spending so much time being frustrated with him by design.
Yeah.
And And most certainly, a very different kind of a person than who Rock Hudson was. But I don't know. There were just things that kind of had it. I don't know. I went into it thinking one thing and then coming out of it, with a completely different opinion. So yeah, it's great.
There's a lot going on, and even it's spans 30 years.
Yeah.
And still, it lingers in some spots on the timeline, and then in other spots, it's, you're like, what whoa, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
and it, it hits certain points. And in terms of Bick, so it's based on the novel by Edna Ferber, who is not from Texas, nor did she ever live in Texas. But and I didn't read the whole thing. I started reading it, and Bick is toned down in the movie, especially in the beginning. And the book, so the parts of the book that I read, the book starts with the group of people. It starts kind of like in what then was the present day. So it starts in the 1950s as the Benedicts and their friends, Vashti and Pinky and all these other people are about to fly to Jet Rink airport, to the opening of Jet Rink's airport, and then we'll get to it's not covered in the synopsis, but that's kind of that's pretty much the climax of the film, more or less. It's really what leads us to the conclusion and kind of the character arc of Bick. But at the beginning, so I also read the sequence where he goes to the home, and this is where we pick up the story, and I'll synopsize shortly. But when Bick goes to the home of Leslie's
family
father, her father, who's a well-known doctor in the Washington D.C. area, and goes to buy this house from him, and you really are seeing things there from Bick's point of view and how much he
buy a house from him.
Horse. Hey, horse. Did I say house?
I think you said house. He went to a house.
He goes to a house.
I'm here to see a man about a horse.
About a horse at a house.
Yeah.
So he takes, and in that sequence, you really see like Bick just judging and disapproving of everything, even more so. And like, that was kind of like one of the first things I noticed watching the movie again, was that I was like, oh yeah, they really toned him down there.
Yeah.
But
before you synopsize, I just want to add, I did watch a short documentary that was made that's on the DVD for Giant, and it was just a bit of a backstory about the impact that it had and kind of where things stood for Marfa, Texas, and Texas as a whole, because according to this documentary, the book Giant that Edna Ferber wrote, people in Texas hated it. They were so appalled by it. It's based on an actual person who was very like rags to riches because they struck gold, and then they just went from being, I don't know, they had absolutely nothing to eventually opening up a hotel. I don't know about an airport, but a hotel for sure. And just lived very lavishly, and it was loosely based on this real person. And the whole state of Texas was so embarrassed by this. And then when news broke that they were going to be making a movie of it, they were even more pissed off. And then the town of Marfa became, center to the story because they were looking to film there. And so many people were thinking like, why would you film there? It's such a desolate, open, arid place. And like, why not go to one of the more beautiful parts of Texas? Because people then can see this. But what ended up happening was the production was so wonderful to the people of Marfa and the surrounding areas. And Giant has now become kind of like the state movie for Texas. Like, they are so proud of it. And I love that this is a case where the movie, for so many people, outranks the source material and is looked at with more reverence than the novel itself. And so it's kind of amazing that it was able to change so many opinions. That I'm sure that in Texas were a lot of very firm opinions and of dislike that they were able to reverse. So credit to George Stevens, the director, and the entire production for making this such an accommodating film for people of the region who were going through a really difficult time financially, and it provided jobs for people. They were extras in a lot of scenes and stuff, and it really gave them a sense of purpose. And it was a real sad day when production shut down for them, and they welcomed these people into their homes, and James Dean was just like invited to dinner at Mabel's house and all that kind of stuff, and he would go, and it was just like a lovely experience for so many people. So I just wanted to shout that out before you gave your synopsis and we got into the nitty-gritty of the plot.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, I did not finish reading the book, so I can't comment to it, but I can only imagine that perhaps the book is perhaps less even-handed and a little more critical of the Texans.
Perhaps. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read the book.
All right. So, well, speaking of the Texans, let's hear specifically about these Texans. Here is, in as much of a nutshell as you can fit it, the plot of Giant. While purchasing a new horse from a Maryland doctor, Texas rancher Bick Benedict falls for his eldest daughter, Leslie. But she's not the typical doting ingenue, challenging Bick's generational colonialist viewpoint, which shockingly doesn't turn him off. As Bick heads back to Texas with his new bride-to-be, Leslie, he returns to his sprawling ranch, Riata, and its many staff and inhabitants, including Bick's sister, Luz, who is crucial to Riata's day-to-day operations. He also returns to find that Luz has rehired the formerly dismissed ranch hand Jet Rink, who immediately takes a shine to Leslie and vice versa. As time rolls on, Bick and Leslie are wed and have twins, Jordy and Judy. It's not much longer before Luz fatally falls victim to the unpredictability of the very horse Bick purchased from Leslie's father. Luz, who had a great working relationship with Jet Rink, leaves him a plot of land in her will. For Texans in the Depression era, the most valuable thing you could own was land, so when Bick offers to buy the land from him for twice its value, Jet politely declines and works on his land until he eventually discovers oil, enough to make him rich. As more years go by and Bick and Leslie have another daughter, Luz, their kids grow into fine young adults while Jet starts his own oil company and continues to grow wealthier. But despite Riata's waning profits, Bick refuses to drill for oil himself, ultimately giving in and allowing Jet to drink his metaphorical milkshake. During this time, Jordy weds Juana, a woman of Mexican descent, continuing to push Bick's transformation from an old money conservative alpha to a humbled woke liberal, all under the large looming shadow of Jet Rink and his flamboyant success. As Bick Benedict, we have Rock Hudson. As Leslie Benedict, we have Elizabeth Taylor. As Jet Rink, we have James Dean. As Jordy Benedict, Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
And as the senior, the elder Luz Benedict, Mercedes McCambridge.
Fantastic.
Perhaps best known, if not for this and for her work on radio, than for being the voice of the demon Pazuzu in The Exorcist.
Oh,
Yes.
I did not realize that that's her. Oh my
Your
God.
mother's here in us with,
my
your
God.
mother's in here with us, Karis.
I had no idea. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah,
what a
that was
legacy.
Mercedes McCambridge. Yeah.
And when we covered The Exorcist, I definitely knew the name, but I did not associate it when watching this.
Her name came up, but we weren't. I'm certain, yes, her name came up, but we weren't like, oh, of Giant,
It's also a really long time ago.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But So yeah, that's what a big movie.
A giant movie. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it spans 30 years, and the trajectory for I think all of the characters except Leslie is so, dramatic, whereas she sticks to her guns. Who she is right away.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really have much adapting to do. But
no, she's the anchor.
Yeah. And that's not a knock on the writing or the performance at all. It's just that's the way that the character's supposed to be.
Well, no, and she is she's that instigator of change for Bick. And it's kind of like Bick almost instinctively knows when he meets her that this is who he needs is so that he'll be able to evolve as a person eventually. And it does take some time.
Right.
I think there's the scene of the birthday party for Jordy and Judy. Poor Judy. Poor Judy just gets
persona non grata.
So sidelined in this.
Yeah.
But Jordy is meant to be, the inheritor, the heir to the Benedict Empire, to the Riata, and he shows much more interest in the toy doctor set.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And doesn't want to get on a horse. Which this is what also kind of, and I love this. This is what also presents the kind of parallel storyline between Jordy and I have Angel.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Who's when Leslie first comes to Riata, and she goes out and she sees where, because the ranch is worked by Mexicans.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say immigrants, but they were probably there first.
No, yeah,
they
totally.
were. Then that is acknowledged throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And Leslie sees there's a sick baby and the mother can't feed the baby. She insists the doctor go and tend to the baby, and that baby kind of like grows up, and you see his fate alongside the
serving in the
fate.
Military.
Well, yeah. Eventually he goes off, and was it actually I think it's Judy's husband Bob,
right,
who also goes off.
Bob,
right, to fight in World War II. And, right, because then who is it who's like they're making out during the news of Pearl Harbor? Was that Luz or?
I think so.
Or was that Judy and Bob? I don't know.
I don't think that was Judy and Bob. I don't really remember all that scene all that well.
Sounds more like a Luz thing. So, totally. But Judy and so Bob goes off to war, and of course, Bob, it kind of like it ends that storyline on such a sad note where you really want to see Angel get off that train.
I know.
But then you just see, the casket. Spoiler alert!
It's fine. Yeah,
it's been many 70 years.
Yeah.
So that whole like Leslie is that character, and she's the one who's compassionate, and I can also imagine why Texans wouldn't have liked it, because Leslie is the East Coaster who comes to Texas.
Yeah, the Yankee. Yeah. She's and again, going back to how this movie kind of caught me right away is when we meet Leslie, and she's instantly, not to like stir things up, but she's just like, oh, I just read about Texas, and, starts talking about essentially the colonialism and the native inhabitants who've been displaced and all this kind of stuff. And she's just kind of bringing it up in polite conversation. And it's just like, oh my God, these conversations are so ever relevant as always. And so when you get that impression from the star of the movie, Elizabeth Taylor, then it gets to be like, oh my God, all right, I know exactly what I'm in store for this character.
Right. Yeah. And oh man, shoot, I had a thought and it flew away.
Well, I'll just tell you a little bit more about what I was thinking about it, because especially when we first meet everybody, in that first scene when they're at the house with Leslie's family, it's almost like, oh, I'm so drawn to Leslie, but then it's like, what does she see in him? Is it just like,
right,
he's a handsome guy and, he's got, some success to his name or whatever. And, that's just kind of the way that things are for, women at that time, is just, it's like,
oh, well,
because upon first meeting him, I think her sister is just like, do you love him? And she's like, oh yeah. And it's just like, you just met this dude.
Right.
But, okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely more challenging to see what she sees in him, except for that in the movie, they do a better, they soften him up. So it's like he kind of, humors her, and he does like, this is as a woman, a young, unmarried woman, especially of that time, for her to, speak the way that she did, and, to show signs of having been educated. Yeah. And, the fact that he's, and he's still, he's more interested in her.
Totally. Yeah.
So I think maybe it's the fact that like he actually does acknowledge her, and he does.
Yeah. So I want to take a moment to compare this movie to another movie that we have recently talked about. So, and it's not a one-to-one comparison, so bear with me on this journey. So Bick is somebody who comes from this, generational horse ranch where it's like, he is the junior to a prior, Bick Benedict, and his son, who's also Jordan. Jordan is his real first name.
Well, and that's where they live, is Benedict, Texas.
Benedict, Texas. Like, they own the town. So he's coming from this generational thing, and it's just like, this is the way it's supposed to be because my father told me that this is the way it's supposed to be. And then he has this son, Jordy, who is kind of like, not real, it's like he wants him so badly to be this person that he's not. And it made me think a little bit about a little movie that we talked about recently called Harry and the Hendersons, in which there's we see three generations of Hendersons. There's the patriarch, Emmett Walsh, who owns the sporting goods store. He's the hunter, and he has the son George, who is an artist, but he shuts down any of George's like artistic intentions and encourages him to be the hunter that he is. And so, of course, then he works at the sporting goods store and he goes hunting and everything. And then we are at the verge of George's son, Ernie, falling into that same pattern. Now, we don't know what Ernie's interests are necessarily, but George buys him a gun to go hunting and everything. And it's kind of, it comes out towards the end that it's just like, now you're just falling into the same pattern that happened to you. And it's like, you should be the person who you really are. And with George Henderson, that's an artist. And so in Giant, it's like Bick Benedict, he has in the back of his head, it's like he wants to be, there's something about the personality that Leslie has that kind of intrigues him, and there's something about her, and he transforms.
John, is Leslie Harry in this metaphor?
Yes, Leslie is Harry, by the way. Yes.
Elizabeth Taylor. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So anyway, so for Bick, by the end of the movie, he becomes the person that like he might have been all along, somebody who's, defending, people who aren't white, and who don't, match the way that things are supposed to be, in quotes, for the people that are in kind of like upper class, Texan life. And so, he is fully radicalized at that point, just in the same way that George Henderson has completely kind of transformed because it's unlocked by the Elizabeth Taylor in his life, Harry.
Yeah. It's wow. You're not wrong. I
better go back to film school and write that thesis real quick. Drawing parallels.
Giant. Come on, Bigfoot's giant.
There you go, giant.
Come on, giant. You could have called it giant. Giant and the Hendersons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So anyway, back to what we're really talking about. Yeah,
I don't know if I can ever go back. I don't know.
End of episode, 28 minutes in. So there's also so much about what we haven't talked about is Jet Rink.
Yeah.
The guy who, when he meets Leslie, he's clearly got a thing for her, and she might have a thing for him too, but it's not something she can explore. She has compassion for him, right? But he definitely sees her in a different way.
Well, especially because like as soon as she meets him, Bick is just like an ass to him.
Yeah.
And she doesn't, and like maybe he's got a reason, I don't know, but like Luz doesn't mind him. So like Leslie is just like she has no reason to dislike this person.
Well, he's an authentic person, and he is very genuine. There's that moment where she goes to his little shack and he makes her terrible tea, but she drinks it anyway.
And, after he has his land.
Right, after he has his land, yeah. But it's like there's nothing about him that is so objectionable unless you are Bick, in which case it's more of just like there's just this underlying thing that's been going on for who knows how long that's kind of been driving a wedge between the two of them. But he was likely kept around for so long because of Luz, because she really liked him, and he worked for her.
Yeah.
And so now that she, once Luz is not in the picture anymore, and he has this inheritance from her, it seems like a logical cutting of ties, or is it? And but the relationship between Jet and Leslie, to the point that, and this is cutting towards the end, where it's like, oh, is he trying to get with their daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, what the fuck is going on?
But he eventually, so like you said, Bick is kind of hard to jive with at the beginning, but I do think what you come around to is that Bick is a more honorable person than Jet, even though at the beginning you kind of don't want that, and you want to, and by the way, I would just want to bring up, there is this moment where so it's not long after he gets his land, and this might have just been like, I was watching it on a DVD, and I'm watching it on like a pretty old TV. It's I don't know, 2009, 2010. Whoa. Like
vintage.
And it was the scene where he's walking his land, like when he first kind of gets it, and he's just walking his land. He's got that excitement, and he's just the excitement of walking on land that he owns. And it's like, mentioned in the synopsis, the Depression, like just appreciating that even more. And there was this glow, like there was this shot of him, and I think it was like a low angle shot, and you see him kind of like against just the big sky in the background, and there was like this glow around him.
It's awesome. Yeah.
It was so touching, because it looked like he was in heaven. And it looked but that was the character motivation, but also thinking about watching this at the time after his passing and like seeing that and being like, you know, like, wow. But it's that it you know, another story that this reminded me of, and thinking of like kind of the character differences between Bick and Chet, was The Great Gatsby in the conflict between old money and new money. And this is very much the Texas version of that, the old money being cattle, the new money being oil.
Yeah.
And, you know, the objections to, you know, drilling on his land. And what I felt that this movie got at, without being too preachy about it, was like how personal it was when that land has been in your generations for so long, to just drill in it and bleed it. And, you know, it's like, you know, Bick was an environmentalist in many ways, but I mean, of course, cattle ranching isn't good for the environment, we know, but, you know, but it kind of like for his, like that sensitivity of like drilling into the earth, for profit. I felt that from him.
Well, also, this movie, it tracks two people who, you know, one of them starts off with immense wealth, and one of them starts off with nothing. And the person who starts off with nothing has more compassion and, I don't know, just kind of is more open and I guess sticking to his own guns, really. And then the person who has all of the money is very, you know, stuck in his ways and unwilling to budge on kind of the traditional ways of thinking. But as time goes on and they switch, the one who did have all the money to begin with, who now has a much simpler life, he doesn't have as much money coming in as he used to. The cattle ranch isn't doing as well. He's sold off a lot of the land and everything. You know, he has become more open-minded, and the one who then gets all of this money and becomes wealthy beyond his wildest dreams is just so fixated on the things that he doesn't have, which is, you know, any friends and any companions.
He's a lonely, miserable drunk trying to hook up with a teenager.
Yeah. Well, also, and it's just
to come back to that, not to leave that.
But also it's like the only reason why he's interested in, you know, getting together with her is because it would make Bick crazy.
Right.
Like he's just doing this just because he hates Bick so much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so, it's an interesting, it really does make an interesting comment, because I feel like it does go in the way that you don't expect it to go. Because when Jet turns down the offer for the land, you're rooting for him. You're like, yeah, you tell him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Take that check and shove it.
Well, yeah. And that's what's so great about George Stevens, is that he takes you as the audience and he challenges your expectations. And over the course of this 3-hour movie, he takes you on this whole ride where you think you're getting into something, but you end up someplace else. And that's kind of amazing.
And, you know, we, the performances we haven't really talked, we've been talking about the characters, and of course, you know, the performances are so great, and the aging work done on them, I think for the time, it was I realized, because from between this and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, I feel like I never had an accurate sense. Elizabeth Taylor just seemed to not age linearly. Yeah. She had a Willem Dafoe quality where, you know, it was like, wait a second, she was only 30 because she looked 65 in that. And, I mean, even with James Dean, it's, you know, it's hard to imagine we never saw him in his old, I mean, even though, you know, Rock Hudson, you know, certainly, tragically died before his time.
Yeah.
At least lived to see older years.
Older, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He died in 85, I think. So
was it only 85?
I believe 85.
Yeah.
I remember it was a big deal because he was like the first celebrity
early AIDS death. Yeah.
Yeah. But he does, it
85.
takes, like, he really does that arc really well. I love him. If we could talk about like his fight in the diner.
My God, it goes on for so long.
It
feels like a real fight.
Yes, precisely. It feels like a couple of older guys fighting, and where it's like, neither is going to swallow their pride or back down from their principles. But yeah, it feels like I was like, yes, this is what I would expect this fight to be like.
Yeah.
And everybody else just kind of watching it.
But I love look at this.
And I love later on that Leslie, kind of calls on that. And she was just like, I forget what she says, but she was like, I was never loved you more than in that moment. And like, he kind of gets his ass kicked. Like, he does all right.
Oh, he does all right. But like, this other guy, Sarge or whatever it is that owns this diner. That dude's tough.
No, that's, Bick gets his shots in, like, but no, like, he goes into the table and everything. So it's, but like Rock Hudson, man, great work from Rock Hudson.
Yeah, totally.
And Liz Taylor, an icon.
Yeah. Amazing cast. And also just like some of the, the smaller characters. I mean, we have Sal Mineo in there, in a smaller role.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if we're going to run down the rest of the, co-stars from Rebel Without a Cause and this, Dennis Hopper is Geordi.
Dennis Hopper is so good.
I was watching this just thinking about, I was like, wow, like Dennis Hopper is really one of those actors who bridges the golden age of cinema with the modern era of cinema so well.
Oh yeah. I mean, and he's the one that kind of like shepherded in the, so much of it with Easy Rider.
Easy Rider, yeah.
Yeah, he really changed so much of cinema with that. And we all kind of went along this journey that we didn't realize that Dennis Hopper was really leading. And to come from movies like this and Rebel Without a Cause as just, was just an actor. And then
you watch
get
this
his
and you
perspective.
Think that guy's going to be King Koopa someday.
He's going to, I don't know, forget the name of the bad guys in Waterworld.
Oh, in Waterworld, yeah, or like Speed. Like everything, Blue Velvet, and so Dennis Hopper,
legend
as Geordi, and he's that for like he's his mother's son, who also like he stands up when his wife is not treated fairly and equitably. At Jet's hotel. Geordi's not having it, and Geordi stands up for her and for himself. And
hey, what do you think would have happened if we told our parents when we were his age that like, no, I don't want to be I don't want to be a cattle farmer. I want to be a doctor. They'd be like, great. I didn't know that cattle rancher was on the table, but like, okay, doctor. Like,
it'd be like, you have to start doing good in science,
Yeah. They'd be like, oh, this is a twist. I didn't know that either of these were potential options, but I'm glad. Yeah. But, they were no Bic Benedicts, that's for sure.
No one was shoving us on a horse and like, now ride.
Yeah. That was an upsetting scene.
This is so upsetting. Little Geordi crying on the horse. Then Angel gets on it and does all those tricks.
My God.
It's like, look at me.
Angel rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really wonderfully nuanced film for something that, was made so long ago, and also that, like, has such a long runtime. It just, like, it keeps you engaged from the beginning to end. And I happily watched, supplemental stuff on that DVD as much as I could, really. And it surprised me how much I really enjoyed it. And I'd love to move on and talk about its legacy a little bit, unless there's anything that you wanted to cover. Oh, let me just ask you real quick. Did you have a favorite scene in the movie?
Oh, let's see. A favorite scene in the movie. Boy, I love the scene when they try to corner Jet and get him to sign away his land.
Favorite.
That's your favorite scene?
Yeah.
It's just so, you're so, like, rooting for him there, and it's like, yeah, you go.
Yeah.
That scene. There's the Thanksgiving scene, and it's now been some time since I watched it, but I have a note in here that just says the Thanksgiving scene is fantastic. So
I don't really remember the Thanksgiving scene. It's been a while since I watched it.
The next note after that is the makeout scene during the news of Pearl Harbor was a choice. So I guess it would have been Thanksgiving 1941. Is that when is that like she like takes the kids and goes home or like for Thanksgiving Or no, that was for her sister's wedding.
Yeah, the sister's wedding.
And then he shows up at the wedding, right? Yeah, well, because the sister marries the guy who she was going to marry.
Right. Jeez,
who in the book,
well, basically, but in the beginning when she's like, "Oh, I'm going to marry this guy," she's like, "Well, can I be with Steve or whatever?" And he's like, "Yeah, fine. I don't care."
Well, and what's funny is in the book there's actually an older sister who actually I think who is married, like I think he's a congressman or something like that, or who like he's actually married to the older sister.
My God. Weird.
Yeah. But I wish I could remember. There's a Thanksgiving scene that I apparently thought was fantastic. I have vague recollection of a Thanksgiving scene, but it's been a while since I watched it, so I don't quite remember. So that one might be my favorite, but otherwise, Jet. Well, I think that on himself. Yeah, I think that just showcasing James Dean's acting, and you don't get better than that. It's so good. And another part that showcases James Dean's acting, by the way, is when Luz dies. His just like the expressions are so. You really feel for him in that moment. Yeah. You know that she was like the only one he had. Yeah. You really feel for him there. Totally. So, in terms of his acting, So your favorite scene was the one where he was. Any others for you? I mean, that's the one that stands out the most for me. I really did enjoy the movie as a whole, but that scene was, I think, by far my favorite. And I think that for other reasons, I enjoyed certain other scenes. When he first, hits the oil, and as a big fan of There Will Be Blood, it's hard not to kind of think about the two of them together. And I'm sure that Giant in some ways influenced elements of There Will Be Blood. I mean, when it comes to movies that are about striking oil, they're some of the bigger ones. So Paul Thomas Anderson is not a student of film. Absolutely. Yeah. So, when the oil is just like raining down on him and everything, you can't help yourself but think about Daniel Plainview and. See, I just thought about the all of the visual euphemisms used in The Naked Gun when they have sex and with the oil well. The oil, but derrick, There Will Be Blood as well. Also, like I thought of a train going into a tunnel. Of course. Yeah. So
I think that, just those moments, thinking about the legacy that the film has in its inspiration are certainly significant. I should mention that there was an off-Broadway musical version of Giant. I listened to some of the tracks from the soundtrack, and it was a little ridiculous, and it didn't quite do it for me. I saw on Wikipedia that Martin Scorsese says that this is a guilty pleasure movie of his, which I take umbrage with that, because what's so guilty about finding pleasure in watching Giant?
He really said it was a guilty pleasure?
This says, in 1978, Martin Scorsese wrote about the movie as a guilty pleasure. I've seen this film over 40 times. I don't like the obvious romanticism, and it's very studied, but there's more here than people have seen. It has to do with depiction of a lifestyle through the passage of so many years. You see people grow. I like James Dean. I like the use of music, even though Dmitry Tiomkin did it. I like Boris Levin's image of the house. And the changes in the house. I like the wide image of Mercedes McCambridge riding the Bronco, then cut to an extreme close-up of her hitting the Bronc with her spur, then back to the wide image. As far as filmmaking goes, Giant is an inspiring film. I don't mean morally, but visually. It's all visual. That's what he said.
Those were during his cocaine days, wasn't it? Yeah.
It feels a little cocaine. He doesn't feel like the Scorsese that we kind of know now, doing TikToks with his family.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen Come Back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean, which I know has a lot of Giant stuff going on. Have you seen that one?
I have not, but I'm thinking it could fit in well.
We'll put a pin in that. We'll put a pin in that
at some point. Yeah.
Let's just say it's on a certain list that we have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Actually,
also,
as is another film that we mentioned earlier.
Right, yeah. And so I don't see it on the Wikipedia page, but I remember that there was another movie that there's like a part where these people go to like the filming location for Giant. It's the movie Fandango from 1985.
Oh, okay. I've never seen that movie, but all right. So they go to the Giant filming locations.
They sure do.
Lovely.
It's I think it's Kevin Costner's like first actual maybe like starring role.
Oh, right. And you know what? I think if I remember correctly, that was directed by Kevin Reynolds.
You are correct.
Director.
Prince of Thieves.
Waterworld.
The aforementioned Waterworld.
Yeah. So anyway, no, I thought Earl Holliman was called the neighbor on whatchamacallit, Home Improvement.
Oh, Wilson?
Yeah. But I guess not. It is nowhere on his Wikipedia page, and that would be significant. So anyway, Earl Holliman.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I haven't seen Fandango, but I'd love to watch it now after having seen Giant to kind of see how they pay homage to visiting, because part of the movie is that they're visiting where it was filmed when they're in Marfa. But Dan, I'd like to know, how would you revisit Giant nowadays?
Well, certainly not as a musical. And I was thinking about it, and it would be, I think, the best way to do it. And I know that like this has been done before. This is going to kind of sound like I'm pitching like Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Which
was allegedly inspired by Giant.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I was like, I was wondering that actually. So, and what was fun was I had kind of fun thinking about like, all right, well, I'm definitely not pitching a remake here, but I'm like, who could I have seen in different roles because there are definitely different actors you could like fantasy cast. Not that a remake would be a good idea. Mm-hmm. Like a circa 2000 Sam Rockwell as Jet, other actors as well. Like, you'd kind of do the whole, like, George Clooney as Bick, or Brad Pitt as Jet, or Matt Damon, do the whole, that bit. But what I was thinking would be more of a series that follows the lineage of these characters into modern day Texas. It would kind of just follow, say like, all right, these people, like, what do they, who do they become in Texas? And maybe it doesn't have to take place today. Like, you could pick up in like the 1960s, 1970s, and see like, okay, whatever happens to, does Jet have like, who takes over Jet's business? Like what's going on with the like the lineage of the Benedicts, and like, how do they exist in Texas? Like, do they get into politics? I think about Charlie Wilson's War as like a story about Texas politics and like how money and politics, I mean, everywhere, not just in Texas, but how that worked there specifically. So thinking about that, I think I wrote in my notes here in quotes, the Western wing, thinking about like, who gets into, like, does one of, like, we know Jordy and Juana and like they have a kid, but we really don't know what happened with Judy.
Yeah.
So like, did Judy's kids, what happens to them? Like with Luz, what happens to, to her? How do they, kind of who becomes who in Texas, and how do they, interact? You could make it, like, you could tie it in with reality, with real politics, like what else, bring LBJ in, you could do that, or just keep it like really soap opera-y.
Sure. Yeah. Like Dallas.
So, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, short, like Dallas.
Yeah.
But that's what I got.
Okay.
Let's say
cool. Well, when I was learning more about the production of the film and the way that the residents of Marfa, Texas were changed by that production, they, like I said, they went into it thinking this is going to be awful. They all hated the book and everything and were embarrassed by it. And then this movie really, changed their lives for the better and gave them work, formed a bond and everything. And I feel like there'd be a cool story in there, perhaps of just some of the Marfa residents who have this big movie coming to town in the mid 50s, that's based on a book that in their view kind of shits all over where they're from. There's, animosity going into it, but the production itself. And I also, I wouldn't say that this is an opportunity to be like, oh, and then James Dean goes to dinner. It's like, I don't feel like it's as much about the main stars, being part of their lives, but just, building the sets together and creating the community. And, I feel like you could get like George Stevens as a character in there because, who really knows what he looks like, generally. He could be mostly anybody.
It feels like kind of a Texas set state in Maine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
With a bigger budget.
With a bigger budget. Yeah. So I think that could be really fun. There were definitely, thoughts to explore, certain people's lives. What would it be like today? Is there kind of like the Jet Rink Stadium in Houston or something? Like, what's the deal there? I was also thinking about Marfa, and Marfa has become a bit of a tourist destination, and it's quite famous for this tiny little Prada store that's just in the middle of Marfa. It's true. There's just like a Prada that's just like this tiny little.
There's your epilogue.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it's just like, man, how does this happen? It's like, why? How does there end up to be this thing that's just kind of popped in the middle here, and that's become its own bit of a tourist destination? And so, it's just kind of a funny thing there, but it's nothing that I think really warrants a giant revisitation. But I don't know. That's kind of where my head's at with that. But
Yeah.
I'd like to know what everybody listening or watching on YouTube or Spotify thinks. Email us ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com if you're a fan or maybe not so much a fan of Giant and have an idea for how you'd want to bring it back.
Maybe it's your guilty pleasure.
Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Cinema.
Cinema.
This is cinema.
This is cinema.
This is absolute cinema.
It's absolute cinema. Absolutely check out ruinchildhoodspod.com for more fun stuff. This is episode 301. We are safely in the 300s. That's very exciting. I'm pretty jazzed about it. Dan, what are we going to be doing on episode 302?
Well, we are going from a bona fide cinematic classic from the golden age of cinema to Freejack.
Freejack.
From 1992, directed by Jeff Murphy, starring Emilio Estevez, Rene Russo, Anthony Hopkins, Mick Jagger, David Johansen. I said Rene Russo already.
You said Rene Russo, David Johansen,
Amanda
Jonathan
Plummer,
Banks,
Frankie Faison, and so wow, we have so much to talk about when we talk about Freejack.
I am sorry, but also I'm so excited. But like Freejack, it's going to be a good episode. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely. So email us any thoughts you have about Freejack, or like if you've never seen it and you watch it, let us know what you think. ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
Dan, as you are being forced to ride a horse that you don't want to be on, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.